So, oh, Jerry. Oops. Yeah. Watch the, oh, you're gonna be on the cord.
Oh,
Yeah, everybody watch out for the owl cord.
On the cord now.
Where's the,
There we go. Okay.
Is this the agenda?
Yeah, but for some reason it got onto 2 pages.
Oh,
That's,
okay.
yeah, well, it, yeah, lots of waste paper here.
There's some here too, if anybody needs them.
Okay.
Oh, these are the draft minutes from last.
Yes, and there's, yeah, page, I don't know. Okay, it's, let's see, it's 3:31, so I'm going to open the meeting of the Mascoma Lakeside Park Committee, August 1st, 2023. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the June 6th meeting minutes. There was no meeting in July. Terry, can you hear us okay? Okay, she says
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Question about the minutes,
Okay.
and that is, Dave and Kate were assigned to do something. I thought it was Doug and Kate.
It was Doug and Kate. That's
Where
correct.
is that?
Memorial donations down to the bottom.
So it was
Doug and Kate?
Yes.
Okay. Good. I thought, oh my goodness, I wasn't paying attention.
And actually,
paying attention. I wasn't.
I have something too, actually. If we could just add so that we can keep track that we also, under landscaping subcommittee, that we also mulched, weed edged and mulched flower beds, just so we, yeah.
Have a record.
Okay.
Weed edge and mulch.
As the DPW did deliver mulch for that project.
One of my hearing aids is in that mulch. So
Oh,
that's all right.
So if you find it, you win the prize.
That's all right. The VA gave me 2 new ones.
Yeah, the VA is very generous.
I know, they give me bill.
And thank you for your service.
yes, yes.
You have no idea. Okay.
Okay, so the minutes are approved with those 2 changes. Does anyone have any other?
I have a request, because that somebody take over doing minutes for a while, for a couple of.
Oh, that's right, you're not going to be here for a while.
I think it's just, at least it's very unpredictable for the next
Okay.
2 times or months, so I'd
All
like somebody else to.
Do I have a volunteer to take the minutes while we're on the subject of minutes?
What's the date of our next meeting?
Well, it would be the first Tuesday in September, probably right after Labor Day. Then.
Okay.
Well,
I'm here. I can take meeting minutes. So we're talking about the 5th would be the next meeting. I just want to confirm that.
It might make sense for somebody to go ahead and start this month, though, because I won't be around for dealing with the draft and stuff. So I feel like I've done it a number of times. So would you be willing to start
Today?
I
No.
probably feel like you have a lot.
I do have a lot today that
Okay.
yeah, so,
Okay.
sorry.
But you'll be having to do the revisions,
Yeah,
possibly.
that's
Oh, we'll
okay.
wait.
If I don't make it to the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the minutes with the edits?
so,
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, minutes are approved. Let's see. There is no fundraising update. Things are pretty much status quo. The Mirsky Memorial donations are up to about $4,500, as I understand it.
And the same figure as we had. Last meeting, we reported $3,050. So
Well, there's been
No, that's it.
Okay, I think there's more than that,
Is there?
yeah.
I saw something today in an email you sent out.
And there will be more at the Mercy Memorial Celebration of Life at the end of August, but that's.
Okay, well, I apologize for not double checking.
Okay.
Is that memorial taking place at the pavilion?
No, it's
Okay.
at the family farm in Belknap,
Okay.
New Hampshire.
Okay.
And Sarah Mirsky has asked me to speak because of Paul's work with the pavilion. It was the last job he did. And so she would like me to tell the assembled about the project and Paul's involvement. The next thing on the agenda is establishing policies for memorial donations. We talked about this and we formed a subcommittee, but not much has been done. We did discuss
Oh,
it.
yes, the committee met today by email,
Okay.
hastily, I must confess. But we did come up with some draft ideas. We had some, it was more of a
Brainstorm.
Kate and I just sort of threw out bullet points. Good, Patty, on the way to present this to clientele, if you will, our contributors.
Or potential contributors.
So there's a way to say it to people, and Patty gave us some nice input on that. Patty's concentration was on two things, trees and benches. I guess I would suggest that those are certainly priorities, but I don't think she meant to exclude other types of contributions other than trees and benches.
You mean monetary or?
No, I mean
Monetary is a
physical,
given.
physical items.
Yeah, it was actually a conscious
Conscious
omission.
thing, that those
Yes.
should be we should exclusively.
It's a good start. I mean, I think if we wanted to add anything to it, we could, but I think, yeah.
And picnic tables would be
And picnic
included.
tables, actually, yeah.
I spent some time, and I wrote that to you, looking at the websites for Lebanon,
Mhm.
Hartford, Knowledge.
Good,
They do.
yeah.
And Lebanon, and under the recreation department, if you type in,
Mhm.
I told them I wanted to give them a bench.
Mhm.
Basically, they take volunteer hours. They take, they articulate this.
Mhm.
They're happy to have volunteers, and they'll work with you. This is rec department, but it covers all the parks. They're part of the rec department. Okay, volunteer hours, monetary. You can even direct where the money goes
Mhm.
to the skate park
Right,
or to, summer.
beautification,
Yeah,
plants, flowers.
But there is absolutely no mention of accepting anything in kind, anything physical. I guess that's not in kind, it's physical,
Mhm.
Yeah, all right, So then I went to Hartford. Same thing, not as well detailed.
Mhm.
All right, they're happy to take your money and they spend it. Oh, and by the way, if you have any used hockey equipment, you can drop it off the rec department. I'm serious, it says that. And again, knowledge is very clear. I think what I'm trying to say is it's the select board or they're designated, appointees, whatever, control what goes into the park. And
Mhm.
I personally think we have two issues. And okay, one, we have a donation sitting there that somebody wants to give us. And we could just take it and then film all this other stuff if we don't want to make enemies, because it's not going to be around that long. I doubt it's going to be here 100 years from now. Or we could hope, we can't do that. But to have a policy that says you can give me a bench. I've got a bench in my yard that's a memorial bench.
Yeah.
I would love to give it to you. Stone, gorgeous. But
We already have a policy on the picnic tables and benches.
Okay, but I'm just saying, you can't start, you're gonna have 100 different people
Exactly.
with 100 different things, and that's my point. I'm
Virgin
not-
Mary in the bathtub.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, well, absolutely, I could probably find you one of those too, you know? from-
I've always wanted one myself.
Yeah, that's
So
the
what do you think,
concern.
Kate, that we should not take?
I'm saying if we take, I'm gonna put it this way, if we take the what is it?
Bird bath.
Bird bath.
The bird bath.
Thank you.
Which is-
If
oh,
we
good,
take
it's
the
here.
bird bath, all right, then I think, one, we want to accept it from MLA as a nonprofit town organization. And we want to do it before we write a policy. And then we want to take all the steps to get a policy that we don't get ourselves in this spot again. Okay? Alternatively, we don't take it until we have a policy.
Yeah.
And, you know, who knows what, I personally am going to vote not to take individual items. That the committee and the select board control what goes in the pot. So that's my two thoughts.
Doug?
At a previous meeting, we at least said we were not going to take anything until.
Right,
the
until the infrastructure was
in.
complete. The site work has to be completed
So
first.
it's not a decision now, but we accept that we can't take it yet if we take
Right,
it at all.
Right,
Okay,
yeah, that we voted on.
yeah,
at
I
our
saw
last
that in the
meeting.
minutes from something.
Yes.
I'm gonna make one more comment and then I'll just
Sure.
turn it over to you. Anybody remember 10, 15 years ago when the two Dartmouth professors were murdered in their homes?
Yes.
man and
Yeah,
woman?
of course.
Are you aware that the Methodist Church in Hanover set up a memorial garden in their honor? And that I can, you know, negotiate and have my ashes buried there.
Yeah,
I cannot, however, bring anything with me.
yeah.
Okay, in other words, the
You
church.
can't have a stone there.
No,
or,
the
yeah,
church control, well, my name would go on
on
a
a
list,
plaque or
yeah.
whatever.
but, the church controls the plantings. I have a good friend who's a volunteer gardener there for that, you know, they control the benches, the whatever, and I'm sort of like looking at it as a model.
Yeah.
It could get really, really crazy.
Yeah, and actually that would be my point, that I was really impressed actually with the excitement that the MLA put forth with this and that their willingness to keep it clean and all those things. But honestly, I'm really worried that it's going to set a precedent. And if we take the bird bath, you know, other families are going to possibly want to do the same. And so my thought would be that we have a policy in place before we accept anything. And then that we really carefully think about what kinds of things we want introduced to the park. And maybe the master landscape plan can take that into consideration, but that we would fall back on that, I think. So, yeah, I'm also worried about the safety of it, just in light of what's happened at the park in the last month. So, yeah, my recommendation would be, as lovely as it is, and the thought is beautiful, that we not accept the bird bath, just again, based on setting a precedent.
No, I'll second that.
And I will vote yes for that.
Are we ready to vote? Or
Is Terry, I gotta think.
Terry, do you have something you want to say?
No, I kind of agree with your comments, although, you know, it's unfortunate that we haven't had the policy in place before the
Yeah.
donation was.
Well, it's so typical of, you know, things like this come up after the fact, after the problem presents itself, then you say, well, gee, we should have had a policy in place.
Yeah.
Perhaps there's another place. For instance, the new library, is there going to be a garden there that the bird bath could go in? But again, you've got the vandalism issue.
Yeah.
Well, in fairness to the committee, we did vote not to accept anything until the infrastructure was in place. That gives us time to
Yes, yeah.
develop this policy, the bones of which have already been presented to us.
I don't remember the voting, I remember it was
Well.
agreed on.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
we went around the table and everybody said
Yeah.
yes. When we purchased the picnic tables, they were purchased first. And Ken, you were the driving force there, because I remember you saying, well, if you put picnic tables there, they're just gonna get thrown in the lake. So I did a lot of research and found a picnic table that weighed 330 pounds. We've yet to have a picnic table go in the lake.
Mm.
And the company, I think it's Park Products, is the name of the company, offers a 50-year guarantee, warranty of their tables and benches. And so far, those benches have been there, I think, since 2016, and they've stood up really well. They could use a nice cleaning, but other than that, they've been very successful, and the same thing with the benches. So last year, when I was in the hospital, actually, I got an email from, I can't remember the woman's name, but she was representing the Mascoma preschool. And she wanted to have 2 benches in the park in honor of Suzanne Gooch, that their husbands were going to be knocking, she said, knocking them together over the weekend. And I said, well, wait a minute. Any benches have to be from Park Products, and they have to match the tables. So that was kind of an unofficial policy about the benches and tables. And then the bike rack came from the same company, so it would all look unified.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have a green bench here and a blue bench there and whatever. Hi, Shirley, careful of the
Oh,
cord.
yeah, you can jump it.
Yeah.
There you go.
So we'll add Shirley Green to the attendees. Oh, Shirley, we've been discussing the policy for donations other than monetary donations.
Oh, see,
Yeah,
Those
those
are
are
all
the
fair.
minutes,
Those are all
and
fair.
for some reason, the agenda got on
Sorry.
2 pages, and I don't know why, but here you are.
Meredith, if we agreed to wait until what phase before?
The site work was
Site work.
completed.
Okay, I just couldn't remember exactly.
Before we come up with a policy, and until then, are we voting to turn down anything that, or, pull anything that's, in other words, I suspect before the end of the summer, somebody else will have something.
Another?
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Liam?
So I did mention to Ed, I gave, after June meeting, I told him, what was
Yes.
discussed, and I did mention that, there was consideration of a policy for donations, and Ed wanted it to be a town policy and something that would be, for
Cover the
all
whole
the town
town.
properties, so
point.
he wanted to make sure there was, the Board of Selectmen was, really the ultimate, had an opportunity to discuss it and, give their say on it also, so. Just wanted to mention that Ed, I don't want to speak for Ed, but I did mention it to him, and that was his response to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to clarify, then, that means that they would make they would put the policy
Ultimately,
together and.
my impression of what Ed told me was ultimately, he welcomed, the committee's, suggestions for a policy, but ultimately the policy would be a town policy for all town property.
Okay.
Particularly parks, because we have 3 parks, Hughes, the ball field, the Shaker ball field, and Lakeside. And I assume the same would be true of the library, the town hall. If somebody wanted to donate a painting, we've had that issue already.
the library, I think trustees can make their own decision on, I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
interesting, Shirley.
But I would have to verify that, but I'm quite sure. we
Right,
can
I
make
know
our own
we
decision.
talked about that
Yeah.
painting, the questionable painting.
Out of curiosity, what about cemeteries? I'm sorry, you were ahead of me.
Yes,
I fully agree with Ed's idea that it should be a townwide policy, but each of our parks serves a different function.
yes.
This park is particularly devoted towards serenity and beauty, and particularly as represented by the natural environment of trees and shrubs and grass and stuff. So what might be suitable for Hughes Park might not be suitable for Mascoma Lakeside Park.
And the
And I
same thing
think
for the ball
in
field.
their wisdom, the select board should be able to make some distinguishing determinations there from park to park.
If you have a written proposal for Ed, then what you just mentioned, Doug, I would suggest on my own that be included as part of your proposal.
Mhm.
Perhaps taking into consideration the purpose and overall feeling of each particular park. The ball field, for instance, is very different than Lakeside Park.
Okay, so you want us to draw up?
I think we should draft something.
Yeah.
And I'm also thinking that even if the ball field, if it's equipment, I bet the town wants control over it. You know, I don't get to bring some equipment down and set it up.
Well, it's probably similar to what you mentioned about Hartford and the other towns, and they want to establish a policy of what they're willing to accept. And maybe it would fall down to the committee after that, like, I don't want to speak for Ed again, but maybe the town would decide, the board of selectmen would decide, we only want money and not property, and then it could potentially, like you said, there's different uses for different places. Maybe it would then fall to the rec department and the Mascoma Lakeside Park Committee for various areas in the town, various parks in the town. I don't want, again, that would be, that's above my level to say that, but that could be one solution, or the way it works out is the town only accepts money, and then maybe the committee could decide, we only want the benches and the picnic tables that have already been established, and we only, for there, and the rec department would decide what goes into the ball fields. I'm not sure, but my real overarching point is that Ed said he wants it. He needs to be able to take something to the board of selectmen and let them make the ultimate decision of what's going to happen with whether it's money or property that gets donated.
So again, going back to Hartford, I think it's Lebanon, the skate park, it's Lebanon, isn't it? And that's new, that's within the last 20 years. And, you know, it was raced by the whole valley. And so they have a line saying you can direct your donation to the skate park, but you don't get to go and buy, you know, a ramp and put it in up there. There's a difference. Yeah, they control it. It's recreation control.
And that was what Ed's point was gonna be.
I would hope that the select board would listen to the recommendations of either this committee or whatever proposal is being made, and not just make their own decision blind from the people that know more about it. I'm thinking conservation, for instance.
Yeah. I don't believe that was Ed's. That's not what I got out of Ed's response to me. I was just relaying the information. He wanted me to make sure that the committee knew that the town wanted to be involved too, and that it would be a town-wide policy ultimately on donations.
Fair enough. So does that mean we hopefully can keep the policy on picnic tables, benches, and bike racks? So they all come from
I
the
always
same
give
company?
Ed an update on what was discussed, so
Yeah.
I will mention that to him, that was a concern of the committee, of what we were gonna keep in place that we already have, and that, like Doug said, each park has its own character, and will that be considered, it's urged that it be considered by the board of selectmen when they develop ultimately the townwide policy.
Okay.
Interesting.
Does anybody have anything else on this subject?
Do they have to go out for bids as far as, you know, you don't want to be stuck with something that costs 4,000 as opposed to 2,000, or so when they.
The town procurement policy right now is, I think,
Used to be 3 bids, but they can't always get 3 bids.
depends on how much money's involved. So if it's less than 1,000, I think a department head can make the decision. If it's up to 10,000, I think the town manager can make the decision with Lisa. And then if it's over 10,000, it's gotta go out for bid, I believe is what the policy is right now. So to answer your question, it depends on how much money it's gonna cost.
Fair.
Well, Martha's here with the bird bath. Martha, did you want to say anything after listening to all
I
this?
brought you the bird bath just in case you wanted to see it. You can see that it would be an extremely insecure object
Yeah.
if I mean, a system would have to be figured out.
Yeah.
And it would only be there in the summer, but still on any
Yeah.
given day,
It
somebody
could be
could
lifted
walk
up and
away
thrown in
so
the lake.
easily. And
Yeah.
it's designed to be on a pole, so a lot more thought would have to be put and work into its security should it ever be in a public place. So I just want you to say this, but I'm going to, and have been an MLA member. It could travel with who's ever in charge of MLA.
Travel where?
Well,
Oh, you mean in their front yard?
I mean, at the lake,
It's
that's
been
where you
in-
want. Yeah, it's been in Allison's Flint's garden, and she's happy with it there. And I think the only other thing I wanted to say was, Doug mentioned not wanting to make enemies, and I think it's really important
Yeah.
that you understand that we will accept your decision and that you have a responsibility to the town and to everybody.
Tell me about it.
For whom the Lakeside Park was created, and we want to continue to be your partners and volunteers with you. But you make the decision that's right for the park and in line with your values as a committee, and we will respect that, and I will be, you know, the mediator, the person who brings the message back to our membership. So please, no fear about that. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Because it, you know, we don't really need to.
It's been a thorny issue, actually. Patty, you mentioned yesterday, the landscape committee had a meeting yesterday. In addition to benches and picnic tables, we have also had an unwritten policy that we would accept donations of trees, like the Dartmouth program where they have, what they call the tree program, don't they? And there's even a map. So that's another option. Should you face people wanting to give a memorial donation and they don't particularly want to do a picnic table or a bench,
A tree.
a tree with a plaque on it is another option.
Yeah. And that should be in whatever we do after.
Yes.
And in case like that, I think probably it would be a tree that was, you know, like in the planting design, it
Yeah.
already designated that.
Yeah,
like,
that they would
in the-
work
a
with.
maple-
A maple tree goes over here, would you
Yeah.
like to donate the maple tree
Right,
that goes
work
over
with the
here?
committee.
And, but it'd be part of the plan already, not
Yeah.
just you know, I always wanted a cherry tree could be planted.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
Right.
Early on, the Eastman Charitable Foundation gave us a beautiful fir tree. And it was to be the Christmas tree. It's doing beautifully, Shirley. I checked it out yesterday, put on some new
This has
growth.
been a good year for trees.
Yes, and sucking up all that.
Except for that frost.
Yeah, yeah, the oaks took a beating, but the blueberries have been fabulous. So that tree is our first and only tree donation that I know of, and there's a little plaque in front of it donated by the Eastman Foundation.
And again, I can't remember where we did this, but I was with Martha and we visited a garden next to some museum. And again, with the, it actually was done in Concord. No, the one next one, Manchester. But the point is, people had donated to the garden and they're, you know, they had names on.
Yeah.
What do you call those? Not rocks, but those like look like bricks. Okay, I mean, there, you know, we can combine it with something like that when we get to the.
Well, you know, Doug has been working on this donor recognition forever, and we still haven't come up with a
All right. I
plan
did
for
take
that.
notice of that.
Because it should be native to our area. too,
Yes,
whatever.
yes, that's right. We don't want
Right, so we have
palm
to,
trees.
we have to control the trees that
Yeah.
are chosen, but
Yeah.
the idea.
That needs to be written.
Right, exactly.
Okay, do we need to make a vote on this? today,
I think maybe,
or reiterate?
well, it would strengthen Martha's case if we had a vote.
Yeah. Okay, does somebody want to formulate a motion?
This is a motion to allow this,
No.
okay,
We had said to be postponed until the site work is complete. I mean, there's going to be an awful lot of heavy
Until a
equipment
policy
in
is, the site work is complete and a policy is established, and approved. You know, it's got 2 levels of approval.
Okay.
And do we need to put the Board of Selectmen into that? I mean, is that,
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
2 levels. We
Okay,
would
2
approve it, and it would
levels.
be approved by the Board
Okay.
of Selectmen. So motion to hold off on accepting specific, what do you call
No
it?
donations will be accepted with the exception of monetary?
And volunteer time
Okay.
This would be our recommendation to the select board.
at this
Mhm.
time. But, I mean, well, we haven't, we talked about drafting something to take to the select board. All right. I mean, this is us saying that.
Well, this would be
The
our
committee
motion.
recommends that donations now be accepted.
In-kind donations
Physical.
with the exception of volunteer time.
So, until such time as policies.
A motion to postpone donations until,
Accepting, it's not
Accepting
donating.
donations.
Postpone accepting donations. Physical donations.
In-kind
All right,
donations
in-kind donations.
with the exception of volunteer time.
We'll take money cheerfully. We don't want that in there.
accepting of in-kind donations, except volunteer time.
Volunteer time. Until a firm donation policy is in place
And approved. We want that word approved.
and approved by the select board.
Okay, I think I've got it.
You know what you could do if you will, Penny? Just send it, are we gonna vote on it now?
Yes.
Yeah, we are. Okay, forget it. I was gonna say you could send it to some of us.
Okay. So a motion to postpone accepting in-kind donations, except volunteer time, until we have approved policy. And select board has also approved.
We have agreed on the policy and had it approved. Sign difference, we can agree as a committee and then they will, I don't think they're gonna redraft it.
Okay.
Either take it or send it back.
Okay, got it. I think you will have a chance to revise it when I make a draft.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
so we'll have a motion now?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion is unanimously approved.
All right.
Consensus, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Martha.
Thank you,
Made it a
Martha.
little easier.
Between a rock and a hard place.
I know.
Well,
You want some help?
well, you know, it's so light. I appreciate it.
All right, I
Thank
can go for it.
I was able to get it in here. I can actually even carry it in one.
It is quite light.
Yeah. it's pretty light. All right.
A rod
thank you.
going up the middle.
Thanks, Martha.
Oh, no, absolutely. No,
Yeah.
that's
Bye, Martha.
essential. Goodbye. Thank you.
Wow.
Okay, next on the agenda, park vandalism. You've all heard about the vandalism at the park and at the beach too, because that porta potty was turned over. Do you know anything we don't know, Leah?
I know that, we've got a bill for $2,000 to replace them.
Oh my God.
No insurance?
I don't know about that. I
The
just-
town insurance.
I talked to Jim Taylor about it, today, and, he told me that the town had received a bill for 2,000. I don't know if insurance covers it.
That's from the
I'm just-
porta potty company?
Yeah, I'm not saying that they won't,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that that's what the bill that the town got.
Now,
I
if they
imagine-
do find out who it was, does it depend on the value of their charge, how serious the charge is?
I had a brief discussion with Roy, not about this, we were,
Uh-huh.
he's building a home, so I was out there inspecting that, and, Roy says they're on it, so they're working on it, and that the town has a 50% conviction rate for being, we said it was very high, so compared to
Mhm.
other towns, so Roy feels, basically, essentially, they're working on it, so.
Okay.
To answer your question, Shirley, I don't know, I did not discuss that with him, Roy didn't seem to. It wasn't a discussion about that. I was there to.
Sure, you
inspect
were
his
doing your job.
foundation. And he just mentioned that, like I said, the town has a good conviction rate, and they are working on, hopefully solving it.
Mhm.
That's all I got.
Have you heard any discussion around solutions for the future from other, or Ed or?
I haven't
Select
talked to
board.
Ed about it. I was hoping to talk to Ed about the agenda today, but apparently he wasn't in, so I didn't get a chance to talk to Ed today about today's agenda.
Well, I can speak to that because there was a lengthy discussion at the Heritage Commission last Thursday. And Heritage does not just cover historic issues, it covers natural, cultural, and historic. And the seeds of Lakeside Park emanated from the Heritage Commission because we wanted to see that land preserved as a natural place. So the Heritage Commission, every member was really upset about such an act being done. It's such a really nasty thing to do. And our deep sympathies to I heard it was Jim Taylor's men that had to clean up the mess. And we have a little plan to say thank you to Jim and his crew. But we kicked around, Madeline Johnson was particularly funny. She said, well, I watch enough detective shows. So she said, well, did they look for paint chips? Did they look at cut tire tracks? She's become Miss Marple, I think. So I know that they vetoed a chain going across the entrance to the park. The park is supposed to be closed dusk to dawn. And I had heard through the grapevine that Roy had said there were way too many pictures to be able to identify the possibility of who was there because it was Old Home Day weekend. But if a camera was placed at the entrance to the park that had a timer on it that only recorded dusk to dawn, that would simplify that question because not a lot of people are going in and out of there. Yes, there are some, but not anywhere near the number that would be on a warm, sunny July or August afternoon.
Like a motion sensor also that only
Yes.
comes on when a car comes in, and maybe you could get the
Yeah,
license plate.
so anybody entering the park, oh gee, that's a blue Ford such and such. Maybe they couldn't get the license plate, but it would certainly narrow down the field. And the other suggestion was a motion sensitive light, flashing light that comes on. We have one by our compost bin that has a siren option. I don't think Leslie Clancy would be too pleased about having a wow, wow, wow.
But if you were intending to do something wrong, if the
Yeah.
light came on.
Right, a
I
flashing
think that
light.
would
Yes.
make someone decide to leave.
Yeah.
Right away.
Yeah, I know Lisa Ranella told me that she was coming home from work one night and it was a full moon and she drove into the park and she just thought she'd sit there for a while and look at the moon. It was beautiful. And she hadn't been there but a couple of minutes, but Mike Crate drove in and tapped on her window, wanted to make sure she was okay. So the police do go in and out of there, but they can't be there 24/7.
Right.
But I'm sure this happened at night. It didn't happen during the full light of day.
You have to wonder
So
what
this
gets
camera
into
be
someone's
vulnerable?
mind to do something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Is this camera a target, you know?
Oh, if it's put high enough on a post, it
Well,
wouldn't
if
be,
somebody's gonna see it, then they're gonna tear the tree down, whatever.
yeah, or the telephone pole.
True.
Did we not have a camera in the park?
Yes,
I
we
thought
did.
we did.
We did at the point when the people were driving up
Yes.
over.
Mhm.
And what happened to that camera?
It was borrowed, first of all.
Yeah, it was a
Belonged to the
hunting,
town.
hunting
Okay.
camera.
Okay,
And
so that was just
They
kind of
caught two different people,
doing
Yeah.
something,
well, driving up over the, okay.
In the
And they
vehicle?
were given tickets. I've forgotten who it was, but I remember hearing about it.
so
yeah.
why couldn't we put in something like that? I mean, I get the argument that it's time consuming to go through all of the images, but I mean, it's important, it's time well
Well,
spent.
you said you did it all the
Yeah,
time in the
at
restaurant
Lou's,
business.
if we had customers walk out, we would go through all of the cameras, to see who it was.
You mean they'd walk out and
Well,
didn't pay?
some people would, it happened, and we would look through the video cameras. Yeah, it's takes a lot of time and it's boring, but I mean, that's why we have these cameras, right? So
That's
we
the
can go
standard.
back and review footage, so.
I think maybe in a public place, you actually have to post that you're being videoed.
Yeah, well, that's all right.
Yeah,
And
And I've heard of people having signs up, even though the camera doesn't really work.
right.
You know, you're
Yeah.
being watched.
Right, which is, it can be a deterrent also in and of itself. And I think there's something about recording voices. I'm not sure exactly, but I know for us anyway, at the restaurant, we weren't allowed to listen in on voices and sound, but we could look at the tapes and watch people, so, I don't know.
Could we recommend to the town surveillance cameras?
Yeah.
as a
But,
committee?
limited use, which would help with the, it's too much trouble, but
I
Well,
think if
dawn,
you do dawn
dusk to
dusk
dawn.
and you have
Yeah.
motion activated, I think if
Yeah.
you did those two things, there would be very little that you'd have. And
Right.
plus, if you then advertised that you were doing it,
Yeah,
very few people would come in
Right.
because they don't want to be videotaped.
right.
I got a question. Are we willing to pay for it?
I don't know, are
Or
we?
we'd have to raise, well, it's a town park, remember, that it was a gift to the town.
I understand that.
One thing, someone commented to me at the museum concert a couple of weeks ago. When they had just heard about this, the wife said, she said, and the next thing that's gonna happen is they'll spray paint the pavilion. And that is a very real
You'll
possibility.
run into a pillar, you know.
And if they paint that vinyl, it's not vinyl, it's PVC, I don't know how you get it off.
You cover it.
Acetone, I don't know.
Yeah.
A truck could go from Main Street up over the rail trail onto the macadam and then down to there's some other way they can get in.
Yeah,
And it's very easy with the trucks they got now, the
yeah.
big tires. and-
Well, you said at one meeting, Ken, that you saw a car going around and around on that
We've
macadam,
seen two so far.
around the sidewalk.
And one was up on the main trail. And he didn't know he was not on.
See, some of these things just a
Class 6
challenge to
road.
certain people.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
one other thing, just, if my car is in a town parking lot and it's vandalized, I get to charge the town for that? I send them a bill? I don't think so. I think that $2,000 is covered by the owner of the insurance.
I don't know the answer to that.
Spent 5 years as an insurance adjuster. Okay, I'm serious. And, so yes, there is a bill, but I don't think it's gonna be the town that pays it.
Okay,
To the porta potty company?
I know with the bounce houses that we rented for Old Home Days, when I first proposed it to Ed, I thought, oh my God, Ed's gonna go into orbit with the idea of, insurance, capabilities and all. He thought it was a great idea, and it turns out that the bounce house companies have their own insurance. You just have to make sure that the place is monitored. The kids have to take their shoes off.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it was very popular.
Okay, but anyway, I'm just making that, point.
And the
out. It
stuff
doesn't
from
change.
those outhouses went directly into the little stream into the lake.
Yeah.
Agreed. I had mentioned that over at the beach too.
Yeah,
Very much so. So, Ken, based on what you've noticed, the camera's not gonna be effective, what would you recommend?
I think the camera is good, but it's gonna have to be really concealed now.
Okay.
Because they'll be looking for it. Nowadays, everybody knows there's cameras, and so you're gonna have to,
Move it around.
even if you put it at somebody's house outside the park, you could see who's going in.
Yeah, Tim worked security when he was in law school at Sears, and he said the two number one things that get stolen are for men, router bits, and women fancy underwear.
Isn't that something?
All right.
But there's no daycare at night though, right? On that.
No, there's no gate, and as you say, they can still come in from, well, the Patton Trail or over the bank. I mean, it's vulnerable. Hughes Park, they're all the parks.
So by water.
Yes,
So-
exactly.
When we talked about this yesterday, I had another comment, and I just want to put it on the record.
Yeah, go for it.
That so instead of doing porta potties, if we actually had, like a state park, what do you call it, bathroom, whether it was compost or tied into the sewer, maybe that would slow things down.
I thought that was discussed once before,
It
and
has
the
been.
concern was about you need a heated building to keep the plumbing from freezing if you were gonna do something.
It would have to be a composting plant.
Unless you turn it off,
And well,
as I do at my camp.
the argument was that who was gonna clean it?
They have daily maintenance, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all the above.
These days.
Just wanted to put it
Yeah, I
out
mean,
there
it would
again.
be, it was Doug's
Because they could
dream.
damage that though, too.
Yes, well,
Oh,
they
yeah.
can damage the pavilion in that, they have, they might escalate, you're right.
Now, if there was a motion sensor, would that go to the police?
Oh.
That's what they wanna know about it, That thing goes off in the middle of the night. So somebody on duty probably, isn't there?
Yeah, there's somebody on duty.
I'm gonna mention to Ed that it was discussed that a motion activated camera or a dusk to dawn camera was recommended for the pavilion and the parking area.
Okay.
Perhaps it could be included in the budget for the infrastructure changes.
And I know St. Gaudens had some vandalism to one of their outdoor structures. It was spray painted, and they did put in cameras. So I don't know what they ended up doing, but just their concern also was after hours. How do
Yeah.
they protect the
I
place
think that's the
after
vital
hours?
thing. I don't
Yeah.
think people are, other than riding their bikes up the hill or popping wheelies in the pavilion, the serious damage would be done at night.
I agree, because during the day, there are people there
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
regularly
Yeah.
that.
Every 3 minutes, somebody gets hurt.
It's at night.
It's wonderful.
And the lights in the pavilion go off at what time? Do we know? Is it 10 or before 10?
I don't know, it stays lit up
Late.
quite a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that good or bad, though?
Well, it's not good for insects, but it's good for security. So
And speaking of insects and diverging from the agenda, I noticed yesterday when we were there that there's an awful lot of bug mess
Yeah.
inside the pavilion,
Yeah.
and it needs to be power washed.
Yeah. Actually, I would recommend not using water on it because the
Okay.
last year when they used water on it, it kind of
Oh, made
smeared
a
the
mud?
bug. Yeah.
Okay, so
They
sweep
should
them down
first.
first.
Yeah, get all the webs and bugs off first, then
Yeah.
maybe do a rinse. But
Again,
Yeah.
whose responsibility?
It's the town, it's a town park.
Yeah, and they did have an employee who did it. I mean,
Did a
it has
beautiful
been
job.
done, so-
Last
Yeah.
year's Old Home Days, it was immaculate,
Yeah,
and it had been really dirty.
last year, actually, the DPW did not clean the cobwebs out for Old Home Day.
Oh, okay, it was Patty.
It was a really long stick and I didn't mind doing it, but I was there with the DPW guy who had been spraying and and he was getting super frustrated because he was using the pump from the lake and he wasn't getting a lot of power, and what was happening was it was just sort of smearing the bugs
Yeah.
bodies. So,
And it needs a cleaning.
yeah, yeah.
Do they still have a cleaning person, Liam? working?
Yes, Aaron is still employed by the town.
Oh, okay, and it was
Yeah.
Aaron actually that,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and it has been
I'd
done
be
this
happy to give
year.
him a cleaning lesson.
Some people seriously don't know how
No,
to clean.
exactly.
Yes, yes, no, it's
I had a
true.
good teacher, my mother.
Yeah. The, you know, in discussing the kind of condition of the pavilion, I wanted to bring up, I wanted to know if we could maybe get the contractor out there who did the floor to take a look at the floor, because it's concerning how,
I don't believe it was properly sealed.
yeah,
by the
so I'm
look of it.
wondering, did they guarantee their work to us? And if so, should they look at that floor and see why it's taking on stains the way it is?
Concrete was always gonna stain, so unless you've got a clear sealant or epoxy sealant on it,
Mhm.
epoxy sealant won't get stained. It's expensive though to put an epoxy sealant on it.
What, do you know what was requested for that
Well,
when
he
the,
claimed he put 2 coats of
Oh.
sealer on. But it was at the end of his contract, and he was already in the throes of a very messy divorce, and things went downhill from there.
does he not have a business anymore?
I don't know. I
Okay.
haven't heard.
I mean,
hide
if
nor
it
hair.
was me and it was my business and they did that to the floor, I'd have them back in, the contractor back in and have them take a look at it. And I mean, it's been how long has it been now? Has it been a
2
couple of
years,
years?
2
years.
2 years, so that might be problematic,
That's
but,
the sealant's only really to keep the stains from penetrating down into the concrete and
Okay.
not surface level staining like that, so. And
so,
that's more of an abrasion than a stain also. It's not the concrete's not really stained. The tires, it's a tire scuff. It's an abrasion
yeah,
that's been left behind by the tires. The concrete, the sealant of concrete is to prevent penetration of mostly moisture down into the concrete from up above.
Yeah, well, what we
There's
saw
still a-
yesterday was food,
Yeah,
like
there's-
drinks
Was
that
it?
have
Yeah,
been
Okay,
stained in
okay,
there.
okay.
yeah.
So,
Because we knew about the tire.
Yeah.
Right.
if it isn't a matter of going back to the contractor, what can we do, Liam? You might actually
I'm
know.
not sure if that's the routine maintenance rather than a problem with what he installed
Mhm.
initially.
Mm,
And prior to going to the contractor, it really would go to the job site specifications
Yeah.
and whether he was required to do
Yeah.
that or not as part of.
Let's
his
just say it
contract.
turns out it's our responsibility. Is there a way to go forward to,
Yeah, what would you recommend?
you know,
Like staining the concrete after it's been cleaned as possible, as much as
you know,
possible?
what's gonna help us not have the problem in another 3 years if we
Yeah.
fix it this time? You know, okay, I know, but you're in a better position than I am.
Yeah, let me go take a look at it and let me,
Okay.
present that in the next one. The concrete is a naturally porous substance
Yeah.
and it's good for what it's good for, but on the other hand, it's durable and it's rugged. It can handle the wear and tear, but it's like a white marble countertop, say in the kitchen, if you pour,
Yeah.
spill wine juice,
Yeah, it's gonna stain.
red wine on it, it'll stain, so. Stone and concrete are naturally porous substances. I'll have to get up there and take a look at it
Yeah.
and see.
We could try just pouring some Clorox on it.
yeah, I mean, because it looks terrible.
Yeah, it does.
And if there was someone hosting a special event there, yeah.
So there's not a concrete paint? so to
Yeah,
there's a
speak?
stain.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering as well.
The Carrier House had a beautiful concrete floor in the basement that looked, remember you came home and
Yeah.
were very excited about the look of it.
And that was painted.
No, it was stained
Stained.
somehow.
Yeah.
So
I
it
think that's
sinks
concrete.
It's an
into the
acid
concrete.
stain, that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it might need to it might need to have almost like repair to it, a cleaning repair, and then maybe if we stain it, have it stained so that it at least can,
Slow it down a bit.
yeah, exactly.
I've seen garage floors we've done with something, I
Mm.
don't know if that's
Yeah.
that same stuff. It's
Yeah.
like- It almost looks like a layer of rubber or
Yeah, that's an epoxy
epoxy,
coating.
yeah.
yeah, we don't
it's
wanna get
beautiful.
into that.
No?
That's
It's too expensive?
expensive to maintain.
We
A
had
stain, it sinks into the concrete.
Mm.
which is preferable, I think.
We had a top made for a cabinet, outdoor cabinet, made out of concrete, and the builder put in a paint into the concrete so that it looks gray. But he actually mixed that in before he poured it. So, but
Oh,
Yeah,
the
we
walk,
did that at the Greeley House.
the walk at the
Mm.
Greeley house was stained as
Yeah,
they
they're
put
on-
it down, so that
Mhm.
it didn't, like the
Terracotta.
fake brick
uh,
walkways, they have the asphalt walkways that they
oh,
painted somehow, have not worked. But that has worked beautifully, the walkway at the Greeley
The
house.
retaining walls staying down there.
Yeah, I was thinking
Right,
that.
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
Like,
Yep.
So isn't the first step for Liam to see if he can get somebody from the town to clean it off?
Mm.
Let me see, both things. I'll see, I'll go back and, find the specifications for the job.
Yeah,
I know they're in the computer file.
yeah, because it was a federal grant that
Yeah.
paid for that building.
Yeah,
That retaining wall stain might work.
Mm.
There's different shades. Now, I forget how old ours was, but it was due to have that stain again this year. And Mike put it on, different shades of gray
Yeah.
and brown so that it looked
Mixed, more
very
natural.
natural.
Nice.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
might be something you could
He
put on.
puts, those types of, he put that on fresh concrete, right? So now
Mhm.
the floor in the pavilion has already been sealed
Yeah,
once and has some stain. And I'm not saying it can or can't, but
Right.
dealing with fresh, cast concrete and dealing with something that's been
Well,
sealed
see,
already once a
that
different.
he did this year wasn't fresh. He put it over, what he had done 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay, yeah, but
Yeah.
the same material, the same coating, the same
Right.
compatibility.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mike would be a good one to advise, though, since he works with concrete a lot.
Mhm.
Because, that's natural color.
So if
No
I
matter
were
what
him, I
you-
would,
If it worked.
Poor Liam, he's
That's what I'm
sorry he
saying,
ever
but-
showed
You'll get back
up. Okay, while we're on vandalism and park maintenance, I'd like to bring up one more issue, which is the dog feces, which has become a big problem.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes. Patty, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, on Old Home Day anyway, we found a lot of large plops of poop on the grass. And I haven't personally met the woman who passes through the park in the morning early, but
It's Rick's mother.
Rick's mom, Mrs. Argenti, maybe is her name. She
Mhm.
does a regular picking up of the dog poop as well. There's a lot of dogs in the park.
But
So
they're on leash.
I've never seen a dog off leash, so which makes it even worse actually, because then that means that the owners know that they're pooping and just moving
Yeah.
on.
Maybe we should have, some places have a container that has bags.
Well, we've talked about that, but the big issue is that they're going more and more to the non-motorized boat ramp. And that's, has a lot of dog.
Oh,
poop.
that's not good.
Yes, and some of them do go over to the dog swimming area. I would like to ban the dog swimming option.
People were swimming too.
Yeah, there's no need the dogs don't have to have a nice little beach provided for them, in my estimation. And it becomes a health issue, and Patty, there's somebody that said to you that animal
Well, the pathogens,
pollutants
right,
are a problem.
yeah.
They're no different, it wouldn't be any different than the
Human.
geese. I don't know.
Yes.
They can cause E. coli.
Yeah, it's definitely, dog poop is considered a pathogen, and I mean, they're so close, it's so close to the lake that if people aren't picking it up, it's gonna run in, so.
The other thing is, I have seen dogs off leash, because when they go swimming,
Yes, exactly. They let them off the leash, obviously, when they're in the water.
and I've actually seen them down at the bottom of the ramp, with, children, not with them, but children there in the water, and, the dogs are running back and forth. Not exactly ideal.
We discussed this yesterday, and all 4 of us are dog lovers.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm anti-dog, I'm just anti-dog pooping in or near the lake.
And it's the volume, it's
Yeah.
because we are
It's not an
attracting-
occasional.
Yeah.
We are attracting a lot of dog walkers, a lot.
People on our road are good at picking up, but you know, when you do find something, it's from a big dog.
Yeah.
For some reason, they leave that. They don't pick up after they go. But,
And if we had a receptacle, then it becomes a question of, it being emptied. It's a hard one. I mean, we do have a beautiful dog park in our town. Not every town has a dog park. As a matter of fact, Lebanon doesn't, I don't think they have a dog
No,
park.
people come from all
Hanover
over.
doesn't
to
have
use
a
that
dog
park.
well used. I count the
Yeah.
cars sometimes, and
Yeah.
I buy there's 7 or 8 cars all the
Yeah.
time.
So it's
Yeah.
not like they don't have a place. Maybe they don't have access to the lake, but it's recently also on our road, there've been a couple of neighbors that are pretty fired up also about the amount of dog poop that gets left behind. And it's mainly because of it going into the water.
Yeah.
It's so.
Well, you don't like your dog's attracted to it too. If
Mhm.
there's a,
And dogs pick up
Problem.
diseases from
yes,
dog poop.
yeah.
So we're all against it. How do we prevent it?
Yeah.
What can we do?
Would you like to add that to your list?
See what happens when we miss a month? All these things.
I can hear Liam tomorrow
No,
morning. If
that's all
you
right.
think I'm ever gonna go to that meeting again,
And what about signage as a start?
well, it's better than nothing, but
You know,
we've had a
dogs
sign.
must be on leash, must not go in the water, must not.
Well, it's not, no, I remember when I tried to ban dogs in the park, Terry didn't like the idea.
Well,
And she said, well, dogs don't poop when they're swimming. No, but they'll come up on the shore.
Well, I wonder if we almost need like a little article in Daybreak or something, or where we just say, somebody being interviewed, maybe Meredith, around, that it is posing a problem, a health problem and a
Yeah.
sanitation problem for the park, and, that people with dogs need to be aware that they're not the only person and dog, and that it's really becoming a problem because of the numbers and a number of people who are being inconsiderate of others.
That's a damn
Yeah, I
good
don't know how you
idea.
word it.
Yeah, good
How
idea.
about- how
I'll write
about
an
the-
article for the next newsletter. Unfortunately, it won't be out till
It
September.
could even be a letter to the editor
Yeah.
and about Mascoma Lakeside Park and how much everybody loves the park, and yet we have a little bit of
We have
a
a problem.
sanitation problem.
And we just recently had an E. coli outbreak that I know it wasn't E. coli, it was cyanobacteria, but
But
But we
there's the
don't want-
possibility.
that
of-
can,
There's a
the
connection.
feces can
Yes.
cause.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I
So-
remember a few years ago, I can't even remember where it was discussed, but there was a problem with horses going into the ramp down by the dam. And I
Oh,
don't remember
interesting.
how that was resolved,
To
because
swim,
people were
the horses
concerned,
were
yeah,
swimming?
about the horses being
Yeah.
in there. But I don't remember.
Doug has swum a horse.
Yeah, it is fun, so it's very tempting.
You could put a sign up, this is Lebanon's drinking water,
Yeah, right.
yes.
which it is.
So
Yeah,
public
yes,
awareness
that's
is what
right.
Penny's talking about. I mean,
Yeah,
You
it's-
really want those porta
Yeah.
potties tipped over, put that sign up,
Oh, man.
on the end 2 minutes.
Yeah, I just think if we can find a way to say it in a positive way of the, that we're noticing this,
Mhm.
I don't know how you say, getting to be an issue or a
Mhm.
problem
Yeah.
for sanitation at the park, and just want to let people know that we need to be more careful.
The problem with putting a dispenser with bags is that they drop the dispenser with the dog poop in it in the trash bins,
Yeah.
and then it stinks.
Yeah. Yeah, unless it had a bin specifically for the
A dog poop
I've
bin.
seen those, but.
But how far do we go?
Right,
to
no,
accommodate-
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, we have a beautiful dog park.
Yeah,
So for us to be putting in all these, spending money and putting in these things to accommodate the dogs, I don't know. I mean, I think our focus needs to be on accommodating the people, and most especially the people who need access, who have the physical,
Mm.
the ADA part.
Mm.
So.
you bring up a good point. At Old Home Days, when I was babysitting the bounce houses, a man came and he was in a wheelchair. And I had a long talk with him. Surely you know this gentleman. And he commented about Lakeside Park and how wonderful it was. And I said, and you know, we have in our plans some ADA paths or trails.
Yeah.
And he was so appreciative. And, you know, until you're in a wheelchair, you don't realize it. But I think that's far more important than accommodating dogs.
Dogs, I think so too.
So what would happen if we voted to ban dogs and then it would have to go to the select board? I mean, I'm just saying, what, you know, what
All
would
hell
happen?
will break loose.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Ban
know,
dogs.
I agree with you,
Yeah.
Okay.
Kate. I made this proposal about a year ago that I'd like to see dogs banned at the
Well,
park.
we would too, but we'd still have the public awareness problem that Penny is talking about.
Yeah,
And we also would have people off the rail trail with dogs.
we're coming off the rail
50% of
trail, that's
our
right.
dogs are heading
A rail
or
trail.
back from the
From the
rail
rail
trail.
trail, yeah.
Yeah,
There was, on the listserv, the Enfield listserv, there was an excellent letter written by Joy Roy. I don't know if anybody else saw it, but she spoke to the issue of poop on our road. And she did a really good job. She kind of, she did a really good job. She's a school teacher and what she was trying to do is educate people
yeah.
on why it's so bad to leave the poop. And I think she might have even put a link to the town ordinance. There might be a town ordinance about, or maybe, I think, but anyway,
There's a leash
I was
law.
gonna say, yes, I think it was about the leash law, it was great. She gave you know, I mean, on our own house, we read it and we took a moment of pause. But yeah, we see dog poop in the bags even on our road.
Well,
And
that's,
Ken used to complain about the gift wrap dog poop bags that are left on the,
well, then
on the rail
then you're
trail.
leaving plastic.
Yes,
So
Exactly,
that's
it's
right.
worse.
Additional, yeah,
That's
it's
been going
And or
down.
disposable.
Oh, that's good. They don't tie a ribbon around it
I
anymore.
don't see any bags anymore. Either they're throwing them over the
Oh,
bank or.
Probably that dog passed on.
Oh,
But I have one more question. Are there signs on the rail trail that indicate that dogs at the park are supposed to be on a leash?
I've never seen one.
All right, I mean, that's our responsibility.
well, I
not
know
theirs.
Leslie Clancy was injured, several years ago or she was walking her dog and a dog off leash attacked, or maybe it was the dog, not Leslie, but the dog, that's right, it was the dog, and the dog needed a
All right, but
serious veterinary treatment.
Can dogs on the rail supposed to be on a leash?
if they're in infield, there's a leash law.
Yeah, I know,
No,
but
they've got some, Merrimack took over this section, so they have a sign that says dog poop and stuff like
is
that.
there, are they
But
supposed
not
to?
up here though, they don't see the signs here, but
Right.
down.
Well, I'm just asking two questions. On the rail trail, are the dogs supposed to be on leash? Not really. And I'm saying when people start down toward the lake, it should be a sign there that says, you know, leash your dog.
But Kate, if they're in infield, even if they're on the rail trail.
But I don't know, but I don't live, I'm walking from Lebanon. I don't know Enfield.
Right.
Well, but they still apply, and so whether they know it or not, so I would assume.
But I think her point is that if we had a sign
We can
there,
put one in.
people coming off would at least see it and recognize.
Right,
And if they
people
are
who want to
from out
obey
of town,
Yeah, it's like, you know.
Yeah.
dog-
You leave Lebanon and come into India, there should be a sign.
That's what I'm
Leash law.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but dogs on leashes also
Because I
poop
would,
in wrong places.
Yeah.
I would never dare take my dog on the rail trail because I've heard so many stories
Yeah,
about
I have two
Dogs off
dog
leash.
and dog
scares
fights.
me.
Well, and he's
Yeah.
saying
The
that.
bottom line, people are gonna do what they feel like most
Yeah.
times. They don't care, they're looking like this, they know they're doing something wrong.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
yeah.
how do you stop stupid?
Well, if you see them doing it, you shame them.
You're not gonna change that
I
attitude.
can't tell you the number of people I've yelled at riding their bikes up or down that grassy slope.
Yeah.
Don't do that. I did it just yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get punched in the nose one of these days.
Well, and I think, I don't know if you realize this, and this does not justify what he did. That young man was riding his bike, and ahead of him, there was two adults and a child. They were walking.
Oh.
And his choice was either slow down, maybe go around
He
them,
could have gone
or
around.
just scoot up that hill.
Ah.
And that's what he chose to do.
Uh-huh.
I just didn't want the looks of him, Kate.
Well, no, it's not the looks. I think if we need to change anything, it's the availability of that slope.
Right,
Yes.
Right.
Oh, and
Well-
that was something we talked about yesterday
Right.
as well. So
Yeah.
can we go into the landscape? Oh, before we do that, the permitting schedule. Liam, do you know where we
I
stand with
talked
that?
to Jim today, he didn't know anything about it,
Oh,
and I haven't, like I said, I was planning to talk to Ed and I wasn't able to
okay.
today.
Can you discuss that with him, please? Because we're getting really concerned. We have a 2024 deadline for this grant.
Mm.
And I haven't seen any RFP go out for the work to be done.
We
Given all
don't
we've
have,
given to
I don't
Liam.
believe the plan has been submitted from, the engineers yet, I
So
think
we're
they're
s-
still
but it
working
has-
through
has-
shoreland and
So it hasn't even gone to the engineers?
it's going, it's in their hands. I don't
Okay.
think we've got a plan back from them.
Okay,
Jim did not want to put out an RFP until we had a
have a
plan
plan, right.
for the contractors to look at and submit upon. and that's
Exactly,
what
they
this
have to
is.
know what they're bidding on.
Yeah, I think it's in the hands of the engineer, I believe, at the moment.
Okay.
did the wetlands survey get done? Has that been done?
I believe that Ed mentioned that it had, I thought so.
Okay.
They had a meeting down there and I wasn't able to go to it because I had I think had a meeting with the Building Officials Association at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That was scheduled, the meeting between Ed and Jim and the engineer were down there, last month.
Down
And I
there,
couldn't
meaning
attend-
Concord?
At the park.
Oh, at the park.
And I couldn't attend that because I had that must have been put together based on the engineer's schedule, because I got like a day's notice and I was already committed, so.
So I think I'd be curious, I'd be curious to hear, especially about the area near the vernal pool, how there was another very wet area.
Mm.
So that if we have to be rethinking that whole inner part of the trail, so we'd have a little bit of time to start thinking
I've
about
talked to
that.
Ed, not about that, but just, here and there about, other temp business in town, and he hasn't mentioned to me that there's a problem. And he talks to Rob Taylor a lot more often than he talks to me.
Mhm.
And Rob hasn't mentioned that there's a problem with that. And I don't wanna speak for Ed, but I haven't heard anything that there's an issue with that that's insurmountable, let's say that.
Good, that's good.
I don't have negative news, I don't have positive news to report, but I don't have negative news to
Okay,
report.
all right.
But the
Okay.
negative thing is that this has dragged on an awful
Yeah.
long time.
Several
And
months.
I know
It's
the-
been almost a year since we've had a shovel in the ground. And we've got donors who gave us their money and don't know what we did with it.
Mm,
People like Timken, whom we're gonna need again someday,
mm.
and the
Timken
Eastman,
requires regular
The
monthly
Eastman
reports, not
Foundation.
monthly, but
the Eastman Foundation guy calls and says, what's
what's going on.
and this is very important that we push this forward.
Yeah.
Is there a member of the infrastructure committee at the table now?
Yes, but,
Maybe you could offer to help the town move this thing along as part of the
And/or Terry,
infrastructure.
yeah, Terry is
Yeah.
Terry here?
Still.
Terry probably,
I think she's not
and also
here.
Dave is who is,
It seems to me that
And Ken,
committee could
you're on
really
the
maybe be
infrastructure
helpful.
committee, aren't you?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe be helpful
But we
in
haven't-
keeping the town, helping the town get it moving. Because I don't think I'll ever see this park in my lifetime.
Oh, don't
And
say
the rest
that.
of you may be up against the same problem if you don't get going pretty soon.
I'm not feeling so good myself.
All I can say about the,
Contact Dave is the one I think would really,
Dave,
Dave
okay.
will think.
He'll be
Well-
back Friday morning.
And as a committee, help the town expedite
Yeah.
the permitting and the
Yeah.
RFP and whatever else is required.
What'd you
Actually,
say about Friday morning?
What's his
You'll
name?
see.
Dave is on his way to Florida and he's flying back in Thursday night. I'm supposed to call him Friday morning to update him on what we did about the,
I know,
Oh,
I've
good.
gone back
Then
and forth
Yeah.
today about 10 times.
Then
with
can
him.
you
I know,
speak to
but
him
the
about
point is
that?
I can tell him at that time what Doug just asked.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay,
Good.
if that would be appropriate.
But he
Yeah.
has to understand that he's one. it's a committee of 4 people.
No, I know, but I'll just say
Well,
that.
I know,
you
but we're an advisory group and we have to advise the town to get this thing going. And I don't know how the best way to do that is, but I think it would be to offer to help,
Right.
to help do whatever
Move it
forms
along.
need filling out or calls need.
Yeah, I think you're a little bit at a stalemate from that again. Until the engineer comes back with the plan and the shoreline permit, the project can't proceed,
Yeah,
really.
so how you gonna fire under him?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the construction season is, very busy this year. It was very busy last year. And I know there's a lag time, for all contractors, electricians, everybody is, if you call someone and they tell you, it'll be a month and a half, then that's a normal,
Yeah.
lag time for this. So I know they had a meeting last month down there. I'll get Ed's attention or Rob's and let them know that, so the committee wants to push them along.
Yeah.
Well,
see.
we're
Yeah.
anxious.
There aren't even
Yeah.
replies when the RFPs are put, there aren't any replies because people are so busy.
Yeah, and they're booked out so far that they can't schedule anything that needs to be done soon. So, they've already booked out. There was, an article from the, heating, air conditioning, cooling. They have a industry trade group. And they did a poll at their winter meeting for that, and I just get copied to their, I'm not a member of that, but I looked up an article and they said, do you want to be alerted to any news from us? And I said, sure. So according to that trade association, in their winter meeting, that their contractors were booked out 9 months.
Wow.
They had 9 months worth of contractors.
Well,
already
Well,
as an
luckily, we
industry.
don't have any electricity. Well, actually, the parking lot may have electricity.
Yeah, there's a
So,
dramatic shortage in trade workers
Yeah.
and truck drivers and stuff like
All the
that.
more reason to keep the pressure on.
Yeah.
And
I'll let 'em
I know,
that-
we don't get a contractor to come without calling them and bugging them.
yeah,
We just had the mason come, fortunately, but we waited 2 or 3 months, but you had to call him 2 or 3 times and
Well,
say,
of course, that's what you do. You keep after them all the time.
squeaky wheel,
That could be being done.
squeaky wheel, yeah.
Okay, so all I'm
We
gonna
have
say to
the-
Dave is that it came up and that asking the infrastructure and Shirley, I told Shirley I would fill you in and then he's to contact the members
Thank you.
and go forward, okay?
okay, so that's
So we're
the report of the infrastructure committee. Landscape committee report. Patty, do you want to
Yeah.
report on our
Sure.
meeting yesterday?
Yeah, we met yesterday. We worked on a volunteer day policy, which I don't have, we made some edits to it and I did not have a chance to put the edits in, but basically just coming up with, how work days would work. We also, distributed and looked over a priorities list for the park to see what we want to do on those work days when we have them. We also talked a little bit about, when I was at Old Home Day, it was super hot at the park. And it got me thinking about trees and shade. And I was talking to a friend who works for the tree advisory in Lebanon a little bit about, just their process. And I think that it would be a really good idea to have, there's 2 people, Charlie Dupuy, am I saying that right? And I believe the other woman's name is Mary.
Mary Ann Hagan.
It's not Mary Ann Hagan, but it's Mary Maxfield or something. She's also part of the tree advisory. And she and Charlie have a 20-minute PowerPoint presentation that they did for the Lebanon Select Board to kind of, for buy-in really on this. I was thinking that it would be really great to make sure we put in some trees at the park to provide some shade because it was super uncomfortable to sit there and watch a concert. There's virtually no shade up.
The bank.
Yes, on the seating bank. And then the seating wall with the granite on top kind of absorbs heat. So that was also very hot. So I just think, especially in light of global warming, that the park is probably always going to be hot. And that we should seriously think about the tree placement and how we can accomplish some shade to make it more comfortable.
I think you can add to the importance of shade because we're shoreline. It's
Mhm.
also infiltration
Yeah.
for the water
Absorbing it.
of that huge
Yeah.
area to go into the ground before
Yeah.
it goes into the lake.
And trees
Exactly.
become a carbon sink.
And the
Yes,
carbon sink
exactly.
is all good.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
stormwater management aspect, I think, is really
So
important.
where and how does one access this video?
So what I just need to do is find out if you would like them to come to one of our meetings, or I'm thinking too that this is something that maybe like the Conservation Commission might be interested in too.
Mm.
Because what they did in Lebanon was they looked for heat tunnels, they call them heat tunnels, areas where it's especially hot, and they have a measuring device that they can bring around to kind of measure the heat. So that they do that, and then they show this 20-minute PowerPoint. So really, if you're interested, I'm happy to arrange it for them to come to a meeting, or if it's something we wanted to do maybe separate from, that's fine too.
It
Why
might
not?
be something worthwhile to do at the community building
Mm.
and set up a
Mm.
public, you
Yeah.
know.
That, I think that's,
Yeah.
I think trees are very much in as far as, a topic, and that you could just have a general thing inviting the whole
Yeah.
community.
Mhm.
And Charlie is a part-time resident of
Yeah,
Enfield, so
yeah.
he wears a hat in both
Okay.
towns.
So, I mean, I think we could learn a lot for the park, but then I just thought, well, why not think about our whole little town when if we, so
Yeah.
kind of spread it from there.
I
So,
think it's very topical, and
Yeah.
I think offering it to the public rather than just coming to the,
Yeah.
the
Right.
preaching of the converted here.
yeah,
Right.
right, exactly.
Educating.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. So,
and it
Yeah.
could be co-sponsored by the Conservation Commission,
Right,
perhaps. Maybe
yeah.
you could bring that to them, sure.
We're not meeting this month, actually.
Oh,
Or later in the month, I think. we
Yeah.
have to look at.
so they were thinking August, and I said, no.
yeah, yeah,
Give us
August
a
is getting
chance to-
pretty full.
Yeah, but September, or in the early fall, but I think that would be great. And maybe even that's a great opportunity if we had an idea about the tree memorial program, that people could
Yeah.
learn about the advantages of trees, and then also that here's an opportunity to donate it to tree or something,
Yeah,
so.
that'd be a double whammy. They could
Yeah.
honor their loved one or whatever,
Mhm.
and also be doing something for the environment.
Yeah, so,
Can we bump this up to the select board level? So
well, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have so much more
We are
experience
a
with that
Tree USA,
town.
town.
Mm,
and so I think we plant one tree a year. But
right,
that's peanuts.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and yes, that's right. And I know that Liberty Utilities, and now I just love those linemen, they have tree program as well, that they donate and plant trees.
People have been
So-
talking about you in the line then.
Uh-oh. Yeah, they get a lot done. So, I think there's some good things kind of percolating. And then revisiting Mike Burns' landscape plan and also Paul Mirsky's landscape plan to just kind of see where what's
Mhm.
happening with the tree, the tree placement in the park, and then making sure that we are in fact dealing with the heat tunnels.
I know Paul was very, very high on creating shade areas. And if you notice, the picnic tables that are near trees are the ones that get snapped up
Absolutely.
first.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
And
at,
cars want to park
yeah,
as
Yeah.
much under shade as they
Yeah.
can.
at Old Home Day, it was very interesting. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the tree that's on the north side of the pavilion, is that right? I'm so bad with direction, but if you're looking towards the where the trail's gonna be, there's that one tree there, that oak. There were several people all clustered
Under
under
that
that
oak.
little oak.
Yeah.
And then I found shade up by the rail trail, but had to sit next to poison ivy. So there's virtually, yeah. So I think if we revisit Paul's plan where he had put in all of those trees, maybe not the exact tree, but certainly the placement, I think that would be wise. So,
Well, it's a grove that is gonna be there in Paul's honor.
Yes.
That's been talked about where it's gonna be located.
Well, actually, yesterday, I don't know, the light dawned on all of us. That bank I know we can't go to the top of the bank. We have to stay 40 feet from the center of the
Rail
the
trail.
rail trail.
Yeah.
But let's say halfway down to put the grove there.
Mhm.
So it provides shade if you're sitting on the bank.
Yeah.
Which there's no shade there now.
Yeah.
And that's where Paul's memorial grove would go.
And actually, maybe start thinking of it as Paul's Memorial Shade Grove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Shady
that.
Grove.
Yeah, and that's great if he was focused on bringing shade in already,
Shade and
then that's just.
accessibility.
Yeah,
Yes,
very definitely
yes,
the
yeah,
accessibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Well, he
fun.
was, at the end, he was very lame. And I think he envisioned going down to the lake's edge to fish with a grandchild kind of thing.
Okay,
So-
but then that memorial tree grove can actually not even necessarily be a grove. It could be, we
Yeah.
plant
Yeah.
trees that
Yeah.
provide shade as a memorial.
Well,
to Mercy.
if I can again mention what trees like, if you can think in terms of trees being in groupings of 3 or something,
Mhm.
because you want the roots to have the opportunity
Right.
to web with each other because of wind and they'll
Yeah, I just
support
meant we
each other.
don't have
Yeah.
to say,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be 10 trees,
and
Yeah.
that's it. We could have 3.
and they
2,
don't have to be the
3.
same tree. They could be
Mhm.
one
Yeah.
big tree and then 2 smaller trees.
Yeah. I have to remember where I was. I took pictures and I'll look on my phone. I took pictures so I could share them with this group. It was I think it was in Santa Fe, but there was an outdoor park that we went to that had music. And they, because of the heat, of course, they had these small trees planted. It was perfect. The
Yeah.
spacing was great. It was just enough shade, but the trees weren't huge. So I'll try and find those pictures.
Tanglewood does that too. If you
Yeah.
really think about it. We always get to sit under a tree for
Right.
the outdoor concerts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
other thing it would do is it would discourage
Yes.
people from
Yes.
going down that hill because there would be trees there.
Yeah.
It would be
exactly.
much more obvious that it's not a,
Sure.
And the lower branches toward the backside would be low enough to keep a bicycle from going.
Yeah.
under.
Mhm. So, yeah, that's great. That they would serve many purposes then. Yeah.
I think people are just downright lazy. I see them come down over that slope because they don't want to come over to the rail trail
Yeah.
entrance. So these are normal looking people and they just go solve this problem. You know,
yeah, yeah.
You know.
We
it's-
talked
they're
yesterday
not-
again about the rocks along the bottom that people can
Right.
sit on. during
Yeah,
the
seating
concert.
rocks.
Yeah, I don't think they're doing it to get away with something. I think it's just easier to get A to B. you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shortest distance.
But if it's
between
more
people.
obvious that it's a sitting and,
Yeah.
a seating area, a place to,
Yeah,
A little mini amphitheater with
Yeah.
seating,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
with the
And that's
shade.
where the bikers are coming down on the side now,
Yeah.
from that slope.
yeah.
They're coming in on the side of the pavilion, putting the brakes on. So you see skid marks this way and skid marks that way.
Well, I think some of them are joyriders too, Ken.
Little hoodlums.
Okay, is that it on landscape?
Yeah, did you want to talk about poison ivy? Or?
Yes, we're on to poison ivy. That has its separate place on the agenda. Oh, I'm starting to itch.
Okay, this year,
I'm lost.
you're not sharing, that's just
I
what the
didn't realize
separate.
it was 2 pages.
Yeah, on the back.
I mean, it was.
We are a busy group.
Yeah, I had an exchange at the Sunday of Old Home Days with, what was her
About the
name?
goats.
Linda Howes, who I knew from Wilmot.
you.
I used to live in Wilmot. And she said they had success
Oh, sorry, Doug.
with goats in Lebanon. But, it's not as
Okay.
easy as it sounds.
Right.
You have to have a goat herder.
Yep.
And I don't know a goat herder. But they were able to control some of it.
Yeah, I heard that.
Ken just told me he doesn't get it.
You don't get poison ivy?
No, the ivy.
You're lucky, Ken.
I don't know.
Yeah. What the only
We're not
negative
on
thing
the
I heard? Well, there's the
landscape committee.
the goat poop could be an issue, but that the second year of that project that they did have a hard time procuring goats.
Yeah,
So that would
goats
be
with goat herders.
yeah. Yeah, so I don't
Yeah.
know, like, who's out there providing that service and,
I guess
what
sheep
it
don't do the
entails.
same thing, but I'm thinking, gee, Patty Williams has all those sheep.
Oh my God.
Patty, have you
No.
thought about going into goats as well?
I can't even imagine the livestock at the park, so it's a little
Yeah,
hard
I
for
know.
me to,
I remember
but-
years ago, in the town I grew up in, the neighboring town had a very old cemetery, went back to the Revolutionary War,
Hmm.
and had been let go, and, you know, it was stuff everywhere, and they brought sheep in and cleaned that up.
Thing is, again, and I actually talked, my partner was an Aggie major and a science teacher. Those goats are gonna eat everything,
Everything.
okay? You know, and yes, you can pen them so they don't get to the flower beds,
Yeah.
but they're gonna eat everything on the slope where the ivy
The
is.
glycophage has more and more of an appeal.
Well, didn't they mow up here this week?
at the
Uh,
park.
They mowed that bank.
Yeah, but it came all the way from down country, all the way to Lebanon, that mower. That was being funded by the other trail people.
Oh,
It's-
the Upper Valley
So I don't
Trails
think they're gonna
Alliance.
hit that, cause
Oh.
they started at the dam below. They did both sides with a mower, huge mower.
Yeah, perhaps, but I mean, it's not just on the rail trail in the
Yeah,
park.
And then Lebanon's gonna be cutting soon.
Yeah, so Lebanon, apparently they said that their DPW department deals with it now, and they go in with hazmat-y kind of suits and they glyphosate it.
Mhm.
So I don't know, but, yeah,
But if you go up here and look towards Enfield, you'll see it's been mowed at
nice,
least 4 feet.
yeah.
It's all over Kim Cork's Island, which is a shame because it's a beautiful place to walk.
Mhm.
And when Lee Carrier was involved with Eva, he got Barker Steel to donate a bridge so you can walk from Kim's parking lot onto the island.
Oh.
We had it years ago, we had an old home day event there where kids had fairy houses, but there was a lot of poison ivy.
And it'll only get worse now as our world gets warmer. It's just exasperates.
All right, so it's there. We're discussing goats. as a
Yeah, I don't
possibility.
think goats are
No.
anything we can
Nice.
take on right now.
I think the town, the last one I talked to, well, we talked a little bit about this at the last meeting, that the liability to have a town employee deal with the putting the chemicals on wasn't something that was advised, right? Am I remembering this correctly?
And that was what, I believe Jim Taylor had told me that, the town had considered that in the past and rejected it due to the cost of the training. And, that you would really only be able to train one guy, and if he left the town for greener pastures, then you'd
Yeah.
have to move on and retrain somebody else, and, it wasn't a good idea, Jim thought, due to the cost of what it would take to accomplish it.
Well, don't you need to look at a comparison of the cost of training somebody and having them on hand versus if we have a lot of it and an ongoing problem of it in the community versus hiring chippers or one of these other, I think there are like 8 different groups that you can call to come in and do glyphosate of Japanese knotweed or poison ivy or whatever in our area.
Yeah.
And I know, like for doing a little stretch of 4A, they were going to charge, I don't know, like $800.
I can speak to that, as I did talk with Ed Morris about the poison ivy a little bit. And I think Grace from Dubois and King, the company that did the invasive inventory, she was working with Ed to try to put together an RPG to have a company come in and deal with the invasives and possibly the poison ivy. But she has left her position, so that kind of, I think that there's Daniel, maybe, her partner who was working, is going to step in and take over, but it hasn't happened yet. So it's kind of, I think they're waiting for that, but, so maybe it is, we have to wait for that.
It's
see.
unfortunately one of these things that's really seasonal though, so
Yeah,
that it's not going to get taken care of in the winter time.
Yeah.
So either it gets taken care of between now and fall.
But you
or
can
wait.
get poison ivy in
I
February.
need to
I
make
did.
sure.
I got a very
Yeah.
serious case.
Yeah.
But they're not going to probably treat it during that time.
No, they can't.
But they can't treat the,
Yeah,
They
right.
won't go to the roots, right? You know,
Right,
you
right,
spray the top,
right.
but you don't want the roots.
It's hard to identify without the leaves.
yeah, that's how I
Yeah.
got
Right.
such a case.
So The signs are on back order. I did order those 3 signs, but they're on back order, so, you know, hopefully, I mean, that'll help, like, just
Yeah.
warn people and caution them, and maybe we never, I don't think we're ever gonna get rid of all the poison ivy in
Yeah.
Enfield, so.
Well, yeah, I wonder if DES has any recommendations, you know, that things keep changing.
Right.
Well, the other thing is poison ivy tends to like sun. So that, if we are clearing an area, we're in a sense aggravating the poison ivy problem unless we plant something else. But of course, we have to have somebody do it who's not subject to poison ivy.
Or black plastic over it. We have that problem every time Doug clears an area in our forest, we get these nasty blackberries. They're not good, tasty blackberries. They're sour, just full of seeds.
Bramble.
And it makes it hard with the maple orchard that he's trying to create, you know, not create, but encourage. If it fills up with brambles, it makes walking difficult to get to the maple trees.
If you can mow them often enough to the ground, they'll eventually disappear. But you can't always mow.
Is that brambles or is that poison ivy?
Brambles.
Yeah.
I was down there today.
But I
and
think that's
noticed-
true of almost anything that grows
Yeah.
in your lawn.
Yeah,
The
you
often,
keep-
more often you mow your grass,
The less poison you're
you
gonna
don't
save.
get anything but grass.
Yeah. So I guess until we hear, like, I suppose we need to just kind of wait if there is an RPG, is that what they call them, RPGs?
A request for a proposal.
I know.
RFP.
RFP. Sorry, I think the other thing is a weapon of mass destruction, but.
That's what we need.
Our own.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
So we just maybe
We're
need to
sitting
wait
on
and
that
hear if anything happens with Dubois and King helping put together that request or proposal. Yeah.
Okay, let's see where we are. I think we've been through everything. Does anyone have anything else?
Is there supposed to be no swimming signs down to
No,
put the boats in, or that?
oh,
No, people swim there all the time.
Yeah, I know, but didn't they say it was taboo and?
No, it's shallow. I mean, you have to go out a long way to really
Well, I
swim.
saw a kid go out there and a father or somebody went out and he pulls up this jagged piece of metal. That
Yeah.
he threw up on the shore, but
Oh, I know, our grandkids pull glass out of the lake practically every time they go swimming.
yeah, I thought that was banned there a long time ago, but, you know, the actual access where the boats go in.
No, we never had, I mean, and again, how are you gonna stop people
Oh, I
on
know,
a hot
I know.
day?
Was it, I think what initially was the discussion, because that area had some kind of trace minerals or things from the old mills and,
Well, yeah,
And
the
the
whole
silts, but
bottom of the
it's-
lake is full of poisonous silt,
Everything
I'm
gets
sure.
brought down by the river.
by the river.
Yeah,
What's your concern, Ken?
What's that?
What
Oh,
is your concern
stuff.
Safety.
about safety of the people swimming?
Yeah, I would think so, yeah, people cutting themselves, their feet and everything else.
Yeah.
If we did
well,
do
you
a
could have a
sign,
sign, swim at your own risk.
Risk.
well, if we did do a sign, it should perhaps
And
mention.
you don't need a lifeguard, do you, there? I mean,
No.
Well, I
Well,
thought
there's
we
not one at
talked
the
about
beach
this,
either.
and didn't we decide that if there is no guard and if there is no sign, then it is
At your risk.
obvious that you're swimming at your
Yeah.
own risk. Isn't that
Just
the
like if
case?
you jump in the river.
Right, and
I'm not
actually
sure about
Hartford,
that, honestly.
I don't know.
Hartford carefully, and I got this, you know, person to person. They have like, well, we have 3 or 4 rivers. They don't put up signs,
No,
because when you put up signs, you assume the liability.
That's
Oh,
what I was-
interesting.
Oh,
Yeah.
Huh.
I think that's the
Right.
situation we have. We may
Wow.
have some accidents.
This guy pulled up a ring like this, you know,
Well, like
rusted
a
and
barrel,
sharp and-
barrel ring probably from an old,
Yeah,
We
it was
could've-
smaller, but, you know,
And I just walking there, you know, going out to boats and stuff, you're stepping on stuff all the time. Sinking in. It's because it's the mouth of a river.
Yeah. Squishy.
But anyway, but yeah,
especially this year, a lot of stuff.
oh yeah,
oh,
right, my,
the color of the lake is is sort of an orangey color from all the stuff that's churning up of it.
It's when you see the boats go by and then their wake is like a funky color. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know, people on Mascoma Lake have no clue about marine law, that's for sure.
Because ignorance is bliss for many of them, you know, yeah.
I took US Power Squadron before I ever got into a boat. Okay, I don't, if no one has anything else, oh,
We
one
talked about
thing.
a work day in the fall, did you?
Oh, right, thank you. Yeah.
But before you do that, I'm looking at my agenda here.
Oh, poor Terry
The
just, she lost connection, was asking if somebody could, I just saw this now. Oops, at 4:00, can someone let me back in? I
Oh,
just saw it now.
oh,
The byway grant, a selectman told me at Old Home Days at the ice cream social that they weren't going to probably be able to do the pedestrian walkway with the byway grant because prices had gone up so much.
Oh,
And that really shocked me.
who told you that?
Tracy Young. So I wondered how accurate that information was. I think that's a
Never
vital
heard.
part of that grant.
Never heard that before.
Well, I hope it's
And
in
that's
there
the walkway from Shaker Village
to
to
the
the bridge.
to the bridge, right?
Wow. That'll-
It's pedestrian and bike path. And I know Ed told me that he was having some difficulty getting permission from La Salette, but obviously La
That's
Salette
right,
didn't want to give permission because
That's
it would have been a covenant
Right,
on the
right.
deed.
right.
And now that that's all been sorted out with the museum acquiring La Salette, that shouldn't be a problem.
Nice.
No. It isn't, that's the very reason last one I didn't do it, because I was telling, and the museum can't do it on the official one at this time.
Yeah, until
But
it's
all
gone
they need to
through.
do is say they intend to do it.
Right,
And that will
right.
suffice
Yeah,
for now.
because it's
Yeah.
so important. I mean,
Right,
it's.
and they have
it-
every intention of doing that.
It's economic development because
Yeah.
this is going to really put that museum on the map.
Mm.
It will become a
Yeah.
national
Well, it's a
historical
wonderful
landmark.
partnership between the community and the museum.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, it's really an important thing, and I really hope that they don't eliminate that pedestrian walkway, because it was a,
That's the
critical
first
part
I've
of the
heard
grant.
even a rumor of that.
yeah, well, I got it from a selectman, that's what maybe he was just whistling through his teeth, I don't know.
I don't know. No, I haven't heard anything like that.
Okay,
I think we'd hear at the museum.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Patty.
Nope, you're fine, I don't even remember what.
We talked about a September work day.
Oh,
maybe
that's what we
yeah.
were talking about. Yeah,
And
that we'll
you know,
schedule a September
But
work
it should
day.
go out to everybody on the committee.
Right, okay.
If you
It's a
want
nice
team
time to
leaders.
work, too.
So maybe what I'll
Yes.
do is send an email out to the entire committee asking if it was putting out some date ideas.
Yeah,
Maybe do
for
it that
one
way.
work day. I
Okay.
know, if you want,
The museum's Harvest Festival is the 23rd,
Okay.
so that's a day.
So we want to
It's
do it
always good to
before the
know.
Harvest Festival.
or after, but not then.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then you also talked about, having that class come,
Oh, right.
but that really just the subcommittee, I mean, you just would be informing on that.
Yeah. I did want to check, I guess I'll check with Kevin Merker to see if there's anything scheduled at the park that we might not be aware of, just so that there's not a,
Sure.
I haven't heard that anything really has been scheduled though.
Well, they're limiting it to the Enfield residents right now.
Only, yeah, okay,
What I read,
all right.
you had to be a resident reserve,
For what, that,
which is okay with me.
To use the pavilion.
I think I saw it on the, I was reading because of you sailing the recreation page, so I think I saw it there. All right. Maybe I got it wrong, but that's the way I heard.
Could have been in the town newsletter.
Yeah, it could have been there too.
There's something about the pathways grant, the byways grant in the
Is there?
town newsletter too. And Ed's, he has, first say, let's say, on the newsletter, he comes up first.
Yeah,
He mentioned that, Shaker Museum had purchased Lost Light, and that was good news for the byways grant. so.
yeah, good. Yeah, I know because he came in at our last Heritage Commission and I said, it's looking good, Ed, because they were it hadn't been finalized, but he said, yeah, I got good news today too, and that's even better.
good.
So about the
That's
whole
great.
business.
As far as work days go, do you guys have any preference for during the week or on the weekend?
Sailing club like the weekend.
They like weekends?
Weekend's always better for me.
Yeah, okay, all
Okay,
right.
and actually I shouldn't speak
Unless
for
you
them
want
without
to.
checking.
I was gonna say, when are you gonna
Aw.
get those boys working?
Actually, I can't say that for sure. But that was true when we talked about it 6 months ago.
That Saturdays were better,
Weekends were better.
weekends.
I shouldn't tell it here, but Trent really likes to help.
Aw.
Yeah. Did I tell you about the cleaning the toilet incident?
No, no, but
What do you want to hear?
I'd
He's
encourage
4
that.
He's 4 years old and we were eating lunch and he was going to the bathroom and he was there quite a while. So I thought to myself, I better go
What's he up
check
to?
on him,
Yeah.
see what's going on. And so I went to the door and I said, Trent, is everything okay in there? And he says, Nina, the top is coming off of this. And so I went in to see what he's talking about. And he had the toilet cleaning brush, which has a
Yeah.
little top on, and it does unscrew. He said it's loose. And I said, well, what were you doing with that, Trent? And he said, well, I pooped and there was a little bit left in the toilet and I wanted to clean it. Toilet, 4 years old.
Well, you certainly.
You're training a good man.
We're gonna have a pavilion next.
Right, right.
Oh, he loves to
Bring
help
that
me.
brush
He brings
over.
in the groceries.
No,
I try to get him to like
Doug,
things and
I
he says,
move
oh, I
we
can do that,
adjourn.
Nina.
I second it.
Okay. And I won't even do all in favor.
I gotta start writing down, because
Thank
he's
you,
right at the
everybody.
age where he loves to pretend, and I go right along with him, you know, and then he all of a sudden will say to me, Nina, it's just pretend.
You taking it a little too seriously?
Shirley, that's a priceless story. You really have to
I gotta
write
write
that one
it.
down.
I don't forget
Yes.
it, it's my old age.
All
And when
right.
he's a teenager, you can remind him of that.
Yes.
Yeah. You used to know how to clean the toilets when you were 4. right?
Yes.
Need to keep that up.
Yeah, I know they get stuck on the rug.
All right, I gotta fly.
I get stuck on the wrong.
Electronic stuff.
Are building
Those are
permits
computers.
like,
Yeah, they're getting
Public
ready.
information.
The old fashioned computers, I got
yes.
one on my desk, and so are these.
Desktop.
They must have replaced them all.
all right.
Forgot to register, I didn't think about registering my car until this morning on the way to
Oh.
Massachusetts. I thought,
Oh.
oh my goodness.
Is
I
this
don't
your
think-
month? Are you?
Yeah, it was July was my month.
Oh, what, do you have like 15 days or something?
Well, I came right back and did it on the way home, so.
That's good. All right, Liam, thank
You're
you.
welcome. I'll
Yes.
make sure I talk to Ed,
Oh.
hopefully I can get a hold of him tomorrow. He's busy, I know. I'm not sure if, I'll catch up to him. I usually send him an email and then, he usually responds to
Yeah.
me. So I'll let him know everything that,
Thank you.
he should know that we discussed.
Excellent,
All right.
thank
Yeah,
you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Right? Thanks, Sally.
So Marianne, I'm gonna meet with Marianne on Friday. I'm so excited for the museum.
Isn't that exciting?
Oh, Shirley, it's amazing. Yeah.
Well, I suppose it's together.
I love it, yeah.